If you are a fan of Star Trek, you know that the Federation Starfleet has some of the most advanced and powerful ships in the galaxy. But which ones are the fastest? How do they compare to other races and factions? And what makes them so speedy? Some of these ships were built for speed from the start, while others were modified or upgraded for special missions. You might be surprised by some of the entries on this list, and you won't believe which ship takes the top spot. In this video, we will show you Star Trek, the 15 fastest ships in the Federation Starfleet, ranked. Number 15. USS Zheng, class unknown. Now, not much is known about the USS Zheng, the temporary starship commanded by Captain Riker. But when it suddenly warps into view in front of a Romulan fleet, you won't believe what Riker calls it: the toughest, fastest, most powerful ship Starfleet ever put into service. Now, we only get a quick look at the Zheng before it warps away again, but we can tell this thing is enormous, possibly even larger than the Enterprise E. Number 14. Enterprise, NX class. Technically, the first starship to carry the storied name Enterprise wasn't yet part of the United Federation of Planets. She was solely a spunky Starfleet vessel setting out to explore strange new worlds. Yet even then, the spirit of unity and discovery burned bright. From her time, the Enterprise was the fastest ship around, capable of zooming to Warp 5 in a pinch. And zoom she did, on thrilling adventures across the galaxy. Number 13. USS Defiant, Defiant class. The USS Defiant certainly didn't look like much. She was built for speed and combat, not comfort. But when the call came to battle, this fiery little ship packed a wallop. Under Commander Sisko's steady hand, the Defiant could zoom to Warp 9.2 in the blink of an eye. And with her stripped-down, no-nonsense setup, that blistering speed was always just a button push away. It was the Defiant's breakneck maneuverability that allowed her to blast through the Klingon and Dominion fleets time and time again. She may have met her fate against the Tholians eventually, but the Defiant proved size isn't everything. Before long, a tough new Defiant-class ship was given to Captain Sisko to take back into the fray. Facing down giant enemy flagships, I bet she made them look like awkward elephants trying to swat a Hyper Hornet. Number 12. Enterprise F, Odyssey class. Before Picard dusted off his uniform, the Star Trek story zoomed ahead to the 25th century in novels and games. And wouldn't you know it, there was a dashing new Enterprise leading the charge, the Enterprise F. This smooth ride was outfitted with a souped-up quantum slipstream drive for blistering speed, and she needed every bit of that velocity when duty called. Even on her first missions, the Enterprise F found herself in the usual ship-shaped firing line. She stared down the Dominion at Deep Space Nine with a whole fleet for backup, and you can bet this plucky lady gave those baddies a run for their money. Number 11. Enterprise B, Excelsior class. The original USS Excelsior was a testbed for the next generation, but the Enterprise B took things to warp speed, likely incorporating upgrades from none other than Captain Hikaru Sulu himself. This bold new Enterprise became the flagship for the whole Excelsior class and Starfleet to boot. The Enterprise B's voyages sprang to life in numerous Star Trek novels over the years. Who knows what interstellar hijinks Captain Harriman and Ensign Demora Sulu got up to out there? With Hikaru back in the captain's chair for a stint, he helped blast the Enterprise B into the 24th century in style. Number 10. USS Monitor, Nebula class. If there was an urgent call or top-secret payload in need of express delivery, Starfleet knew just the ship for the job: the speedy USS Monitor. This nimble Nebula-class craft was the fleet's trusty messenger, always ready to zoom onto the scene. Whether it was investigating lost ships, scouting enemy movements, or even just bringing important news in a hurry, the Monitor's mission was to get there first. Her maneuverable frame allowed her to dart and weave past danger when needed. The Monitor popped up in TNG episodes and the Generations game, fulfilling her specialty: lightning-quick response. She packed a punch in combat too, but this ship's real strength was hitting warp speed at a moment's notice. Number 9. USS Ajax, Apollo class. The intrepid crew of the Enterprise D weren't the only ones pushing technology's edge in TNG. Engineer Kosinski was always tinkering with experimental upgrades, and he chose the USS Ajax to test his transwarp drive. Once Kosinski worked his magic, the zippy Apollo-class ship became a true speed demon. She went from equal parts exploration and battle to warp racing wonder overnight. Starfleet Command took notice of Kaczynski's handiwork. The souped-up Ajax was suddenly their fastest, most maneuverable scout and courier. Originally tagged Excelsior class, this Maverick ship earned her own place in the books after her fiery makeover. Number 8. USS Discovery Crossfield class. The main setting for Star Trek Discovery is the USS Discovery, a Crossfield-class starship on a top-secret mission to test experimental propulsion methods beyond warp drive. And you won't believe what they discover. The ship was built specifically to research faster-than-light travel like the unprecedented spore drive. Since this takes place in early Starfleet history, the Discovery's missions are highly classified. After the ship was apparently destroyed in a wormhole, her secrets would be lost for 1,000 years. Any survivors who knew details were sworn to secrecy or risked treason changes. Number 7. USS Fearless Excelsior class. The exciting USS Fearless is an Excelsior-class starship, the next generation after the famous original. This ship emphasizes both speed and exploration. She received experimental upgrades from Kaczynski, combining a powerful transwarp drive with brilliant new inventions. The Fearless's specialty is mapping unknown reaches of space. In her Star Trek appearances, you can always find her charting another unexplored galaxy. When the Enterprise D gets the same drive upgrades, the results are groundbreaking. So hang on to your seats, the USS Fearless as they blaze a trail to infinity and beyond, making new star maps along the way. Their new tech lets them cross mind-boggling distances in the blink of an eye. Number 6. USS Enterprise Sovereign class. The legendary USS Enterprise E represents the pinnacle of Starfleet engineering. With a sleek new Sovereign class design, she incorporates the best elements of all previous Enterprise models, updated for the 24th century by none other than Scotty himself. Officially clocking speeds up to a blazing warp 9.9, the Enterprise E features cutting-edge tech like relocated warp nacelles for maximum efficiency. Number 5. USS Voyager Intrepid class. The Intrepid USS Voyager is an advanced Intrepid-class ship built for long hauls into the unknown. She was the first to traverse the entire Delta Quadrant, an epic journey that you won't believe. And this was thanks to her speedy warp drive and multiple upgrades gained during her impromptu 7-year odyssey. Intrepid-class ships are made for deep space travel with cutting-edge tech like Warp 9 engines. But Voyager traveled farther than any Starfleet ship before, wandering uncharted space while seeking a way home. Number 4. USS Excelsior class. The legendary USS Excelsior was one of the first ships outfitted with powerful transwarp drives, making her the fastest in the fleet. As Captain Hikaru Sulu proves, she's only as good as the one at her helm. Her embarrassing first mission, chasing the stolen Enterprise, ends in Scotty's sly sabotage. But under Sulu's bold command in a later film, he threatens to fly her apart and is rushed to the rescue when the Enterprise needs help. Hold on to your seats. The Excelsior becomes the gutsy prototype for a whole new generation of high-speed exploration vessels. When duty calls, she answers fearlessly, rushing in at record speeds. Number 3. USS Prometheus class. When it comes to warp travel, most ships max out around warp 9, maybe 9.5 on a good day. But the USS Prometheus laughs in the face of these puny speeds. Engineers designed her to go faster than any other ship in the fleet. Now we are talking way faster. How fast, you ask? Well, at a maximum warp, the Prometheus attained a blistering warp 9.99. Can you even imagine how fast that is? I certainly can't. And while some ships have supposedly cracked the warp 10 barrier, it usually ends pretty badly for them. So warp 9.99 is about the practical speed limit. The Prometheus held the crown as the fastest ship in the fleet for who knows how long. I honestly doubt any other ship came even close during her heyday. Her slick shape just screams speed demon. Now you don't build a ship like that unless you plan on really tearing up the star lanes. So next time you think your ship is a hot rod, just remember, the Prometheus would leave you choking on her space dust at warp 9.99. Number 2. USS Vengeance. Now you won't believe the crazy fast ship that showed up in Star Trek Into Darkness. This dangerous and unique vessel known as the USS Vengeance threw fans for a loop with its unbelievable speed and power. It somehow caught up to the Enterprise while it was at warp speed and opened fire. I know, pretty crazy, right? It must be one of the fastest and most decked out ships the Federation has ever seen to pull that off. We can only guess what kind of advanced capabilities the Vengeance would need to chase down another ship traveling faster than light. But it clearly managed with room to spare. You can bet this bad boy is likely one of the speediest vessels in Star Trek history. And that's not all, it has enough weaponry to take on a small fleet. Number 1. SS Enterprise, Constitution Class. You won't believe some of the speeds the iconic Enterprise from Star Trek the original series was able to reach. This Constitution-class ship, registry NCC-1701, met her eventual demise at the end of Star Trek III: The Search for Spock. But not before going on some incredible voyages. Her top normal speed was Warp 8, but in one particular episode, that which survives, the Enterprise was sabotaged and her engines dangerously overloaded. Chief Engineer Montgomery Scott estimated that she would explode in just 15 minutes if not brought back under control.
Mr. Scott, I suggest you refrain from any further subjective descriptions. You now have 10 minutes and 19 seconds in which to perform your task.
Spock had the idea to manually shut down the matter-antimatter reaction to stop the runaway acceleration. The Enterprise blasted through warp 13.2 before Scott cut the fuel flow, just barely preventing a catastrophic explosion as the ship topped out at a blistering warp 14.1. Now, while certainly not designed for raw speed, the Enterprise's powerful warp drive and maneuverable impulse engines made her perfect for seeking out new worlds on long-term missions, while still letting her slam on the brakes to investigate an interesting discovery. So, while the Constitution-class ships became iconic for exploration, this incident showed the Enterprise still had some surprising turn of speed when needed. One fan said, "I just want to mention for the Star Trek fans that a Cochrane shuttle from Star Trek Voyager was once upgraded in a way that allowed it to go at warp 10. In the Star Trek universe, this means that they were going so fast that they were everywhere in the universe all at once, so technically the speed of the Cochrane shuttle is also infinite. It did have a side effect though of causing you to become a lizard and nail the captain and lay eggs, so there's that." Another one said, "Event Horizon has a gravity drive that folds space, so essentially has infinite speed as well. And since it's one of the coolest ship designs, I suggest adding it here." So if you like this, then you're going to be really interested to watch why a Star Trek warp can really happen in real life.